I've never been. I am like, I hope it's great. I hope I can leave everything behind.
Oh, yep, I got it.
I'm gonna try.
Hey, I'm doing good over here.
Are we gonna use that mic? These are like, these are all from the media.
I don't know what happened to the mic that was up here.
Yeah, so, I mean, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Are these the ones from the media?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I didn't want to touch because I didn't think they were.
Thanks for coming, man.
Okay, there's 7 of them. Yeah.
Thanks.
Terrific. Looks like there's more. Yeah. They're the moderators. There's people there. They may need them too. Good thinking. Oh, you've got it. Okay.
Yeah, I got it.
Good. We're just sitting anywhere, so I just sat. Sit down. Not yet, but we've got till 11 tomorrow morning. Just until 11. But that'll give me time to get everything in my suitcase I needed.
Are you flying Delta?
Yes. I know.
Amsterdam?
Yeah,
You have plenty of time to get to that airport.
I know. Well, the passport wise, oh my God.
That like mid, how you have to go through customs.
It's like I feel like you're leaving and then starting all over. But we'll do it. Yeah, I'm not ready, but how do you get ready? Right. I know.
I talked to Tawanda.
I know they were on my Facebook page last night, and I was like, why are they doing this? She thinks it was kind of I know, and I expect she's right because how did they do it, right? It was like 12 hours before France. I know. I know. I know.
Oh, you know.
Yeah, there was that. That's
Hi there, how are you? Good. I haven't seen the agenda, Sheriff. What does it say?
yeah, it was like.
That's
Good to see you.
I just sat because it was like
know you wouldn't have bailed on the retreat, but thank you for doing that. Even, you know.
I'm sorry I had to leave it.
No, 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 no.
I
No. Yeah, no, and it was just type 2, like, it's over too. We kind of went a little bit late, but no. I'm good, thank you for coming and doing that. Even though you
Not a problem.
We'll wait and see.
I know around, I know somebody at every table.
Yes, you really is. We have more seats in the front if someone needs seats in some of the front rows. And we'll get some chairs to put out as well. Thank you. We're about to get started soon.
Guys, I think we need to get chairs. Need help with that? Yeah, that'd be great. There he is.
but apparently not. This is what it takes to bring the people out. Right?
We're going.
I'm okay.
You do anything? Can I do anything?
Oh, nothing I can ask you.
I was wondering if you were going to move your get out of
Yeah,
the
right.
road.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Olivia, like Kelsey or Katie, you remember? Yes. All
Were they both after 2005?
It was probably Kelsey.
Kelsey Blonde.
Youngest, yep.
All blonde.
Yep. What fun. Good to see you again.
Hey, congratulations on your retirement.
Yeah. You can't stop smiling.
She's done a lot of public.
All right, everybody, okay. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started. No, we need some seats in the back. We're getting more chairs. I love this. Run out of standing room only. Come on, Rochester. That's what we're talking about. Let's give it up for Rochester. Let's go. This is how we turn a negative into a positive. Not city. We're here in solidarity to talk about some of the issues, and we're here in unity. So we want to open up right now with a word of prayer with Pastor Apostle Marone Shepherd.
Praise the Lord. The Bible says, let everything that have breath praise ye the Lord. And so that's what we want to do before we get started today. Amen. Father God, we come this day in the name of Jesus. And we come, Father God, to praise and to lift up your holy name. We came into this place, Father, oh God, to say thank you. Thank you for all that you have done and for all that you're going to do. And Father, I'm asking that you would move in this meeting today by your spirit. Let there be unity. Let your people be on one accord, because you're no respecter of person. You created us all in your image. And we thank you today. We thank you for giving those on the council, Father God, your wisdom. Give them revelation knowledge. Touch us all one by one. Let us all come together. And we thank you for it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Out of respect for our Muslim brothers and sisters, is there anyone that would like to say a prayer for the Muslim community?
Well, but I will do that.
Amen.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbi Alameen.
Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim, siratal ladzina an'amta alayhim, ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Amen. And what that translates to is, in the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, all praise be to God, the Lord of the world, most beneficent, most merciful, the King and the Master of the day of judgment. You alone we worship, and you alone we ask for help. Guide us to the straight path, the path of those who deserve your favors, not the path of those who have incurred your wrath, nor those who go astray. Amen.
Are there any other faiths that would like to be recognized, to have a spiritual word of prayer at this moment? All right. So there's no other faith. We're gonna go ahead and get the program started. We just ask that we maintain respect and understand the reason why we're here today. We're here today to talk about the tough conversation of our community, racism in our community. We want to talk about it. We want to have an open conversation, and it's a safe place to do it. So with that started, we're gonna pass it over to our panel, to our moderators.
Hello, everybody. All right, well, welcome to a special show and meeting of Barbershop Talk. My name is Melanie Call, and I'm joined by our other moderators, Stephanie Whitehorn, who is in place of Juan Burks tonight. We also have Bud Whitehorn behind me, as well as Andre Crockett. And those two will actually be speaking and giving the mic out to the audience members, so they'll be composing that. Tonight we are here based on an unfortunate situation that occurred Sunday morning, where a racial slur, as we all saw, was posted on a bridge near the school here. And that's just a piece of the problem that we face today in society. Racism is a huger issue that we deal with. So tonight, we want to walk away with solutions as well as addressing the problems, and that's what this panel is here to do. We have a panel of leadership who will be answering questions surrounding this topic, but keep in mind, this is not staged. We're not getting paid to do this. They came here on their own time to be able to hear what the community has to say, as well as addressing those problems. So after we ask the questions, keep in mind, we will also be offering a time for the audience to answer, but we will be limiting it depending on time. There will be time after all of the questions are answered from the panel for us to kind of give it back to the audience. Comments and questions, again, will be limited. In the spirit of Barbershop Talks, we do want to make sure that this conversation is respectful, so please keep that in mind. We may disagree, but we want to make sure that the respect is still here. And with that being said, I would like for everyone on the panel to go ahead and introduce themselves, along with what their mission statement is, what they stand for in the community.
Hello, everyone. My name is Reverend Gabe Green. My mission statement is making money. Amen. I'm a business owner. You know, I love God and Jesus, but I'm a business owner, and it really is about a spreading message of hope, you know, and a message of love. The number one thing that we have missed in our community is loving one another. So that's what my mission is spreading love to everybody and respect to everyone, and just finding a way to move forward in that space. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm Kent Pickell. I am superintendent of schools here. I want to thank the Century High School team for arranging this quickly. Somewhere we have a mission statement, but I'm going to be real, I don't know it. I'm going to be honest. Our mission in Rochester Public Schools is to help every student be and become their best self and put them on the path to thrive in school and in life.
Real quick, can we have everybody stand? It's a little hard for everybody to see who's speaking.
So, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. This is extremely important, so I really appreciate you being here. My name is Wally Alegbede, president of the Rochester branch of the NAACP. The NAACP is the oldest civil rights organization in the nation, 1909. It got established because of things such as this. In terms of what our mission is and our vision is a society where there is no racial hatred, there is no discrimination, and we want a society where Black people, as well as people of color, can live in equitable, thriving communities. You know, that is beneficial for everybody. And, you know, obviously we believe in diversity, equity, and inclusion in how we live our entire community together.
Good evening. It's great to have a great turnout. I wish we didn't have to be here for this reason, but we are. And my name is Kim Norton. I'm mayor in the city of Rochester. And so my job is to be the voice of the community. And I want to be here to be the voice of the community that loves and cares for every single person that lives here. And so while the city council and the school district have their goals and their mission, quality services for quality living doesn't really resonate in a moment like this. So I'm just going to say, I hope as we have our discussion here, I'm just going to speak from my heart and tell you what I feel and what I think we can do, and be here to listen as well. So thank you for the invitation.
My name is Captain Jeff Stillwell. I'm a captain of the police department, and likewise, I won't spew our mission statement out. But for the last 4 years, I've worked in communities that have been marginalized by the system, in my view, and in others' view, and tried to build trusting relationships. So when things happen that are negative, that we can continue the work that we've started.
Hi, Kevin Torres from the Youngstown County Sheriff's Office, and I come here tonight with a sad heart. I saw it just like all the rest of you did the other day. What we're talking about out there in the bridge, and just really saddens my heart. It's just really hard to really comprehend why people or why someone would do something like this. So our mission statement really goes to the heart of this. It's to provide and protect people and the well-being, their safety and security of all people in our communities. It matters not where you're from, who you are, what you're doing. That's our goal. Our goal is public safety, is the police department, obviously, fire, and everybody else. That's what our goal is and our mission is. So I'm excited to hear some of the conversation tonight, and I'm also very thankful to see all of you here, including those in the hallway. Thank you for being here.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is George Thompson. I happen to know Andre and Bud quite well, and I was sitting there comfortably, and they said, "Would you be part of this panel?" I've been here for a long, long time. Came here in 1968, the year that Martin Luther King was killed. And I have also been part of a Not in Our Town effort in this community in 1997. And we got people together basically to say, we want a safe community for everybody. We don't want violence in our community for anybody. And so I'm excited and pleased to see as many people from so many different areas. This is what it's supposed to be about. Us caring and loving each other. Because frankly, I've been studying race for a long time, and there's really only one, and that's the human race. And we need to get back to that understanding. So I thank you all for coming, and I'll be honest and share things as well. And the mayor is amazing. I've known the mayor for about 30 years, 25 or 30. In the window of her house, she had this, "You're the one to make the peace" sign that was what we had back in 1997. I'm just impressed with somebody that says what they think, and it's basically is a very good human being. So I'll sit down and shut up and.
So as we go through the questions, we want to encourage and inspire, and also we actually want people to use the voice. You own it, it's yours, and use your voice. We have comment cards on the table. If you would like to comment, if you would like to speak your comment, we have a microphone on the side, and we'll give you opportunity to speak as long as we have the time. We're going to turn it back over to the panel.
All right, I'm gonna stand up so y'all can see me too. All right, so the first question is directed to Mayor Norton. Any act of racism that occurs in the city obviously affects Rochester as a whole, the very city that you represent. So my question for you is, what are you doing to address these issues, these experiences that appear in Rochester, and how do you make it a place, or how can you help create an environment where people feel welcome whether they live here or visiting?
Thank you. It's a tough question. I I would say since I've lived in this community, and George alluded to it, we have had incidents of hatred. People in this room experience it on a too regular basis. And so the initiative that happened years ago, not in our town, and you're the one that can make the case, has been in my window all these years. It's something I believe in. It's one of the reasons I ran for mayor, to talk about these issues and see if we cannot act as a community together. Because the mayor cannot solve this problem. We can help solve this problem. And so over the years, a year ago at my State of the City, I actually said there are so many acts of hatred, racism, misogyny, hatred for people for being who they are that we were seeing. And it was really concerning. So I asked the community at that time, help me tell people that's not okay. And I will tell you, I can't tell you how many people came up afterward and have said for the last year, I'm trying to do just that in my little neck of the woods. And that's part of what we can do. Each of us can say to people, that's not okay. It's not okay that you say that. It's not okay that you made that joke. It's not okay. This is a caring, compassionate community, and everyone deserves to have the feeling of safety and love and belonging here in Rochester, Minnesota. So since that time, I worked with some groups in town. I know some of you will have heard about this, and I tried finding another piece of paper in my house, and I wasn't as lucky because this one was in the window. I don't know where the other one is. But the Post Bulletin actually helped pay for these years ago, and the Post Bulletin recently put an insert in the paper about respect. And there's a group here, some of them are in the room, I saw them, who've been working on trying to create better dialogue in this community by really calling this year, 2024, the year of respect. And so I think those are some of the things that I've been trying to do. Again, I can't solve the problem, I can model it. As mayor, I get lots of unfortunate posts on social media. And one of the things I've done, just as someone removed the signage up on the wall, is to hide posts that are racist and misogynistic and hateful and that are not good for this community. I don't block them, I don't remove them, I hide them. So if you go there, you don't have to see them because you shouldn't have to see them. And so, I think the actions that happen swiftly are helpful. But I also think because it happened, we need to talk about it. And so I'm here to work with you to create a sense of community, which I think is lacking, not just here, but around the country, because we are no longer willing to work together. We just find ways to divide each other. And I'm just going to say right here and right now, and I'll hand it off, talking about racism, talking about inequity, is not division. And that is posted on my page almost every day. It's not division. It is the opposite of that. It is addressing the issues that are in front of us, and we need to do it respectfully, consistently, and I hope you'll help.
All right, thank you so much. If anybody has any comments. We have a question, a comment?
Please come to the microphone.
I'm wondering, this will probably be for Mayor Norton, for the law enforcement officers. What happened is completely deplorable, and I condemn the strongest terms. Is there a law that we can actually prosecute on, or is this not covered under free speech?
Well, I'm going to hand it off to the police as well, but we are in a dilemma right now in this country trying to decide, particularly with social media. This was not social media, but particularly with social media, what is your First Amendment right to say what you think, and what is hate speech and detrimental to a community? And I'm very concerned about where we're at. I think I was really disappointed in the last Supreme Court ruling, and had hoped, at least on the social media end, that they would empower us to be able to control our own social media accounts, and they did not do that. I've been told by the chief, and I will let, I'll let law enforcement say, but if we knew who had done this, because this was a question that was asked, if we knew, charges could be pressed, but it's a misdemeanor, right? That's what it is. It's a misdemeanor charge. So I don't know, that doesn't help us here, right? That doesn't help how people feel. So we've got to find other ways to deal with this, how we feel and how we're gonna move forward.
So yeah, I just, again, the mayor pretty much covered it. Again, one thing I know is whoever put that up there was intending on causing harm to this community. So whether that's a crime or not is it's relevant, but it isn't, right? It's like, so again, I think coming together and trying to work on that harm, I'm just gonna be honest with you, it's a losing battle to try to drive the hate out of people. So again, I think we need to focus our work in community building and inclusiveness and in making people feel welcome. So the harm is lessened, it will never be removed, but the harm is lessened by use of terms that are offensive, that are have historic connection to oppression in a system that doesn't always work very well for everybody.
Well, remind the panel, can you please stand when you're speaking? Only when you're speaking, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to respond to that. So Dr. King said, and I'm going to paraphrase here, yes, you may not be able to force somebody to love you, but if we can stop them from lynching me, that's important too. So there is a role for law enforcement here. So we're trying to talk about that. Whether it's a misdemeanor, we have to hold people accountable. So it's not just a kumbaya conversation. We have to hold people accountable. The second thing we need to do is to have conversations. Our kids are being traumatized by this. Business owners are being traumatized by this. And community members are being traumatized by this. So this is not a little deal, this is a big deal in terms of what kind of community do we want. Now, together as a people, we can certainly do that, but this is not well, we have no idea who did this, maybe these are knuckleheads or maybe this is a community member. It doesn't really matter who did it, but we from the NAACP tell you, if you know something, say something. And it's not about being punitive, but let's use this as a learning opportunity, because things like this really hurt the fabric of our society. And that's what we don't want. And so we need to do this in partnership with law enforcement. We need to do it in partnership with the city, the county, and we definitely need to do this in partnership with you. So we are saying not a now town. This is not something that, started from the NAACP, but why reinvent something? So not in our town will our children be unsafe, not in our town will racism exist, and not in our town will we make sure that we have a society where there's discrimination. So we all want to focus on love, we want to center on love, but we also have to talk about this. This is not just a kumbaya, there's a lot of hurt in the community right now.
I just wanted to add one more thing to what Captain Sewell said, and that is, and this is not intended to be exclusive, even though it kind of feels like it. We have to have an intended victim, and it's part of it that, who is harmed? Yes, the whole community is harmed. We all are harmed by this, absolutely. But to prosecute it, to actually, unless we can figure it out, and I look to the PD because it's their case. So we're off unless something else shows up. But there has to be that part to it. So just understand that too. But on the other side, with what Wally just said, there's people out there that know who did it, who participated, and these generally, we'll see, maybe they did film themselves doing it because they're so proud of it. There's all kinds of ways we can figure this stuff out. And then we figure out, okay, is there something else that we can do or could be done? Is it school in this way? Is it students? I don't know. Where does it come from? But that's the part of it, is identifying a victim, and it has to be a person. Generally in those cases to get to that point. So you can't arrest everybody. We have to have part of it, so it has to be specific to some person or an individual with some intent behind it. That's the hard part. Thank you.
Okay, real quick, everybody. So we know that everyone has a bunch of questions, people want to make comments, but we also want to get through this in an organized fashion. We want to be respectful of everybody's time. We got a very large summit today, and believe me, I'm very glad that so many people showed up. But we also got to be realistic about this thing, because I got to get my food tonight. You may not, but I don't plan to be here till 11 p.m. So just let y'all know. So y'all may be here, but I will not be here definitely. So in respect of time, everybody, we know that's why we did put out the comment cards. And I want to personally let everyone know that if you fill out a card, I will be one of the people that ensures that your question gets to whoever needs it on the panel. So in that light, just please keep in mind, give me a little bit of trust. Y'all, I haven't done it to most of y'all yet. So just give me that much, okay? So if you don't get an opportunity to speak, we do want to know that your voice is important. We also want to say that the way we set this up so that we can allow the panel to answer questions, what we will do is we will ask them a question and then we allow for a community, response. So we'll kind of do a little back and forth. So we'll ask the panel the next question just so we can get moving with some of the things, some of the topics, get that conversation flowing, and then we will come back and allow for comments. So unfortunately, like I said, we ain't gonna get to everybody, but if you have a comment and you want to stand in line, that's fine. Also, we will also try to keep it streamlined. So if you have a question for the person who answered, we would ask that those questions go at that time. Am I making sense? Okay, all right, we'll get back.
Thank you. All right, so, and I do want to remind everybody that while we are initially here, because of the great incident, we're mostly speaking on how racism affects Rochester. So I don't want to lose sight of that. So my next question is for Captain Stillwell. So how exactly can the police department recognize past roles in supporting unfair systems like slave patrols while still ensuring fair treatment for everyone in the community today?
Well, that's a great question. I think if you see what we're trying to do, we're at least the Rochester Police Department, we're trying to be on the front end of restorative justice practices. We're dragging partners to the table to talk about those types of things. We have to do a better job of recruiting and hiring people that look like the community that we serve. So put our money where our mouth is. And again, I agree with Wally 100%. That there has to be accountability. I'm not suggesting there shouldn't be accountability. But I also know that, there's a lot of questions about the investigations. I'm not involved in that part of the operation anymore. And I know there's an ongoing investigation. The person that initially saw that has been identified. So again, the victim piece isn't really something that's hanging us up here. It's really just trying to figure out who did it. Did I answer that good enough? I mean, that's a pretty deep question for a short panel and these esteemed people. But again, I think we have to acknowledge the damage we've done as a profession. I'm not signaling out individuals and the trauma that causes and how that brings people in front of us that haven't had the same experiences that maybe we did growing up, and we should recognize that. We should be okay with that. And that's going into a lot of places and having a lot of conversations and being strong enough to take the criticism, because criticism needs to be. You're not going to build trust without accepting some responsibility for historical trauma and those types of things. And the way I do it is I just show up. When Bud calls me, I show up, and he always promises to get me out safe, which is kind of weird. I don't bring a bunch of cops with me. Bud's going to get me out safe, and we have some tough conversations sometimes, but I'm okay with that.
Prepare for some
So we'll have a question from the community.
I just want to say, I think it starts at home. I think it starts with people's attitudes. Ignorance breeds fear. How can we educate everyone that we all bleed the same, cry the same, and laugh the same? Let's focus on laughing rather than crying and bleeding. And I would like to ask the school district, why isn't the film Brown Eyes, Blue Eyes being shown in schools any longer? It was filmed in Riceville, Iowa in the late 60s or early 70s. I saw it at Byron Elementary School when I was in 3rd grade. It is still relevant.
I know a few people have continued to show that film, and it's one tool that can be used to help young people understand some of these deep issues. For some of you who may know about that, it's a famous experiment where a teacher manipulates the way kids are seeing each other and produces a lot of hostility. Candidly, one of the drawbacks of that is that a lot of kids today see that as staged. And they look at it and it seems like kind of theater-like. And so it certainly is still being used. It can be a powerful transformative, but there are a lot of other ways that we're trying to make the same message. It certainly has not been removed in any sense. I think I would just, as we're talking about the who did it piece, I had several conversations today with people, fantastic people who are on the right side, and I believe there's a right side and a wrong side of this issue, on the right side of this issue, who assumed it was a student. It might have been. It might have been one of our students, but we do not know. And my exchanges with Chief Franklin today, who's not in town, but who I was connected to, say that it's very unlikely that we're going to get camera footage of the bridge, unfortunately. So unless, as the sheriff was implying, somebody actually talks, which would be good, we may not have the physical evidence. So the question remains, who might have done it? The concern I have about saying it might have been a student is not defensive because I'm the superintendent and it might make us quote unquote look bad. We think all the time about how we prepare our students to see diversity as a positive and to be anti-racist. I think it lets us off the hook because then you can think, well, it's a kid, it's developmental. They didn't understand what the N-word means. They may not. In today's society, it is not a stretch to think that a fully grown adult put that up there. And so I want to say we are thinking about what this means for us, for our schools. But I said to some of the colleagues I talked to today, I don't think we should let the community off the hook by thinking this was something that just a knucklehead kid did, because we don't.
Hi, my name is Michelle Kirk. I am the owner of Shell's Kitchen. And I actually just got located where that bridge is. I sit right underneath that bridge. And it was there Saturday evening, actually, is the day I see it. I was really busy. I didn't think anything of it other than Facebook goes straight to social media is where I see all the posts and things like that. But I'm actually thinking about relocating because of that. I don't want to, but I feel like I just started there not even a month ago, and now I'm seeing slurs like that on the bridge. So it's offensive, it's intimidating, and it's when I close at 9 o'clock, I'm by myself most nights, and it's kind of worrying. So yeah, I just hope that it's going to take into consideration.
Your victim.
Something is actually being done.
Okay, so we'll continue on, and as I said, we'll try to get as many community comments in. This microphone is not working for me, and I'm space for is going to be for Wale. And Wale, the question that I want to pose to you is, in what ways do you currently believe that the current law enforcement system that we have is perpetuating some of the systemic racism in this country and in this city? And even though we are aware that there are efforts to reform and to change, what specific actions do you advocate for to bring about that change?
That's a deep question, and I appreciate the question. So, law enforcement has an important role. You know, I think first of all, we need to think about the mindset. A lot of times, what I hear is, oh, this is not our fault, or we didn't do this. This is Minneapolis, or this is Atlanta. I think that's the wrong mindset. It is true that whatever is happening in Minneapolis or happening in Atlanta is not what's happening in Rochester. But the history of law enforcement can be traced to slavery. My family, I have people in my family that are in law enforcement, the military, as well as the police. So this is not a question of do we value law enforcement or not. And so a lot of times there's that mindset that, well, all eyes are on us. Well, yes, all eyes should be on you because it's a higher calling. And so that also goes to the accountability piece. This is a layered question because there have been several incidents in town where I think the responses should have been something different. You know, from the NAACP, we hear stories and incidents of people being stopped. We have stories of businesses, you know, feeling that they've been targeted unfairly. I respect what Ken said in terms of we have no idea who did this. Yes, we have no idea who did this. But there's the proximity piece. There's also the trauma piece. Somebody, a student, committed suicide on that bridge. Right? So this is serious stuff. And that's why I'm really ticked off right now. But back to law enforcement, I think there are multiple things that we can do. First of all, be in partnership, and obviously the collaboration with Barbershop Talk and SIR is great. Engage with the NAACP, we're not your enemies. We are here with collaboration. We want to hold our society to higher standards. We believe in a society where everybody is treated equally. There's an important role for law enforcement there. You talked about restorative justice. Yes, that's part of it. Community policing is also part of it. But our law enforcement, as well as our community members, need to be able to see, that is my son, that is my brother. We need to get to that mindset of being my brother and sister's keeper. If we do that, again, that's the mindset. If we do that, then if you're stopping somebody, well, I'm seeing that's my knucklehead son right there. Or if you're being stopped, you know what? That's my dad. We need to get to that point. We're not there yet. I mean, you look at different surveys. Gallup did a poll that 1 in 5 Black African American felt that they experienced microaggression. They felt people treated them as if they were not smart. That people treat them as if they were untrustworthy. And there is also a big fear of law enforcement. You can take a poll around here. Any Black person, if you're driving and there's a police behind you, well, you get apprehensive, regardless of whether Captain Stillwell is a great guy or not, and he is, as well as Sheriff Turgerson. But so those are the things that we have to really work on. We need to work on our mindset. We are one community, and families have tough conversation. It doesn't mean we don't care about one another. And so, all the conversations I've had, I know it's always coming from a good place. I always assume positive intent. So, yeah, it's a tough question, but I believe deep in my heart that we can get there. I really do. But we're not just going to get there just from conversation. It starts here, but then what are the actions that we need to do?
So I've been praying through whether I should even say this, but earlier I came up because something didn't sit well on my spirit, and it was a comment that it doesn't matter who did this. And I would just submit to us as a group that it does matter who did this, that they have a soul as well. And I'm on real thin ice right now, I know I am, but I feel like the fear of punishment, like to your point, I get apprehensive when I see a police car behind me because I feel like I'm doing something wrong. Because a lot of times they speed or, whatever. So it's like, so I'm on thin ice, but I just wonder if we came at it in a different way where we weren't saying, hey, let's punish this person, but we were like, is this a misguided person? Do they have some trouble? Do they need some help? They obviously do. They need to feel loved, because people that feel loved, love. Hurting people hurt people. So I think it does matter who it is. I think we should be reaching out to the community and not saying we're gonna prosecute or persecute. I think we should be saying, please come in, have a conversation with us. Why do you feel the way you do? And, I'm not saying we need to honor them, but I don't think our first thing is we have to punish you because they're not coming then. And so how can we invite them to come, whether they will or won't, and then respect them as a person, even though they're not respecting others, because I think that's how it starts. When I respect somebody that doesn't respect me, the respect starts. So, I don't know, for what it's worth, that just didn't sit well in my spirit. I think it does matter who it is. I think we should be trying to communicate to that person whatever love you didn't have growing up, no matter how old you are. We're gonna love you, and we're gonna help you not feel the way you do about the human race, because the human race is beautiful, and you all are loved.
Before we go any further, I just want to say that we had a replacement panelist. Uncle George said he was tired. He wanted to sit down. So we wanted to. He did a lot. So we want to give time for Joseph to introduce himself, and if you have a mission statement to talk about that and who you are.
Can everybody hear me? Joe Phillips, owner of Jersey Joe's, trying to be as active in the community as I can. My mission statement is, try to redefine a lot of things in this community. If you've ever been to my shop, we try to treat everybody like they're invites, and especially greet everybody within a minute of coming in. It starts with yourself. You have to look at yourself as a potential problem and say, what can I do better? This incident that happened, there's really no words that can explain it. We all know that it's wrong. And whether we get to the specific individual, it's very important, but it's more important that we come together as a community and see all these people out here. It's a beautiful thing to know that such a ignorant act is not going to be tolerated. So I can just speak for myself in general and my family. We're here. If anybody needs to talk, you can come and talk to me anytime. But it is a bigger problem. Last week I was out of the country, but around the same time we received a call and they called us niggers on the phone for no apparent reason. So I think that it might be a growing problem, but I don't know. We'll see.
Do we have another question or comment?
Can I jump in? I really want to thank the gentleman who just made the point a moment ago about your perspective, but I've got to disagree deeply. I've got to disagree. Social norms are powerful things. Social norms are how we do things here. The power of the N-word is so off the charts offensive and steeped in centuries of murder and destruction. And we do have people who need to be educated to that. But it's not just a differing life perspective. It's verbal violence. There does need to be punishment if we can find out who did it. It's a misdemeanor. They're not going to go to prison. The vast majority of staff in Rochester Public Schools are deeply committed to all kids. But there have been a few people in the 2.5 years I have been here who we have taken disciplinary action against for the use of this word. And they used it, not calling it, using it in their own word, they used it quoting a song, quoting literature in a way that they somehow thought was okay. But they used it in proximity of kids, white kids and kids of color. And when we talk to those kids, the impact on those kids of hearing somebody, a white person, use that word was profoundly, to Wale's point, profoundly damaging. If you say that's just a point for discussion and not for accountability, we actually don't get change. And I want to say in particular, it's particularly important for people who look like us to say that word is not okay. Because we are setting those social norms for people in our group. And so I really respect that you got up and said that, but I didn't want to let it linger without respectfully but strongly disagreeing. So thank you.
Thank you for that. So we have some more comments. We want to go through the audience comments because we really are here for you to activate that voice and use it. So we're gonna go ahead through some comments. Before we go any further, we want to bring Ms. Tina up. She's the person that posted the picture on Facebook first, and she wanna speak about that.
I just wanted to say that I didn't post it for nobody to get prosecuted or, nothing like that. I just called it in because I already took it down because it was offensive. So I it wasn't no harm. I didn't want nobody prosecuted or nothing. So I'm quite sure a child did it. So that's all I want to say.
It said something that she knew it was serious enough to call 911 and get it taken down. So thank you for that.
Hey, Bart. Yeah, and I'll just sort of, I appreciate what our beautiful sister mentioned. So from an NAACP perspective, there has to be accountability. We believe in love. We want to make sure that our community is a community where people feel safe. There's no discrimination. But there also has to be accountability. And whether that's a misdemeanor, whether that's community service, we don't know what it is, but it's not just okay to say, okay, let's just forget about this, because this is traumatizing. If you just think about the students of Century, we have no idea, is it Century, is it a community member? We don't know, we're not saying that. But this is traumatizing to the students. This is traumatizing to community members. And that is something that needs to be acknowledged. So that's really why we're having these conversations here, to acknowledge what happened, not in our town, but it did happen. And how do we move forward? So that's really the point I want to mention.
All right, we'll let the audience.
Yeah, we're gonna keep going with the audience. Next question.
So I essentially just have a comment, and I want to thank Ruby for organizing this and for being here, and for Superintendent Patel for what you just said. You saved a lot of words from me, but I do feel like we've already had quite a few examples of some really glaring white privilege that has been speaking tonight. I can get another voice to that, but instead what I want to say is we need to start using the white privilege that we stand here with. And for anybody that came here tonight, that came here because they were surprised by what happened, you need to stop being surprised and start paying attention. Disturbing to me than even this entire thing was people in my orbit that were like, what? Oh my God, in 2020, yeah, 2024, what? We have to start paying attention and start thinking, who did this? We did this. Stop looking for it. Of the one person who did it, we did it. Every time we sit in silence, every time we refuse to stand up when we see something wrong happening, we did this. We pull the triggers, we kneel on the necks, we put the cups in the bridge. Okay? So stop asking who did it and look at yourself and asking how you can stop.
Before I get to my question for you guys, I'm gonna be a little tongue in cheek here. I know there's white privilege. I'm half Mexican American, so I'm not sure if my oppressors, oppressed kind of evens out there. Trying to figure that out still, so. But anyways, this is more specific for Captain Stillwater and Sheriff Torgerson. You mentioned about marginalized. So I'm just curious, do you believe there's systemic marginalization, aka systemic racism, more specifically in Rochester? And then can you give us some examples?
Now I'm gonna lean into what somebody said earlier, that pretend I don't have this uniform on and I'm here as a private citizen. And also know I only have 2 months left on the job, so if I get fired, the answer for me is yes, and that would probably differ for many people that are involved in the system. The system has not really been receptive to looking at how certain populations are policed different than other populations. And we can sit up here and young cops tell it to me all the time. I just treat everybody the same, and we all know that's just a lie, right? That might be their perception, but they don't treat everybody the same. And I think it was a Wale that said, if they could see that person in that car that, got angry because they got pulled over and asked, why'd you stop me, as their son or their brother, we would be in a lot better place.
You don't have. I thought you answered it quite well.
So was that a yes, Captain Stillwell?
I think I said yes.
Okay.
I think it's again, it goes back to the lady that was just up here. It's every day, it's all of us. Whether you're opening the door for a certain person at Quick Trip or cutting them off in traffic, or, however you look at someone or don't look at them, or across the street, or, whatever it may be. It's every day. So is that going on? Of course it is. We can't fool ourselves that way. As far as our office, we talk about it, absolutely. The county is doing a great job, I think, in regards to our employees and how we're talking about and working through all of our diversity, equity, inclusion classes that we're going to. It's a big effort in the county for all of our employees. And of course, we're doing other things too on that end. Is it hard to get away from your biases? Of course it is, absolutely. And we have to be conscious of them at all times and make sure that when we are dealing with someone who's in a situation or pulling somebody over or however it goes, that we are looking at that situation, looking at who they are. I've taught for many years, from way back when I was a DARE guy, and knowing that there was kids in my classes that looked at me differently because maybe one of my partners was at their house last night and arrested their dad, or had to break up something, or did something. We all have that, and we all have to be conscious of that and know where people come from, in the sense of what's going on in their life. There's a lot more to it than just what I see at that one moment. So it's a conscious effort. We have to always be thinking of it. Every one of us has to do that. It's not just, well, I'll do it today or tomorrow or tonight or this afternoon. It's a conscious effort every single day when you meet people, greet them, look them in the eyes, say hi to them. It starts at simple things like that, and it goes on and on, so thank you.
All right, so is that a yes?
I thought that was my cue to stop.
Sheriff Ferguson,
Was that a yes?
was that a yes?
It's a yes.
All right, thank you. Okay, we got a comment from,
I didn't know it was a yes or no answer, otherwise I would have said yes and got it done.
I want to ask the superintendent of schools, wouldn't it be good or better if our children were taught Black history, that they could realize that the Black man has contributed so much more to this country than they know? Do they teach Black history?
Yeah, I didn't, were you continuing, or are you ready for me to respond? I love the question, yes, but not enough. And you know, somebody said in February, and I'm glad we do it in February because it gets done in February. Something quiet happened in Minnesota that is very hopeful on this point. The legislature has just revised the Minnesota Social Studies standards. And I started as a social studies teacher. That every single kid in this state will take every single year. And they are a dramatic revision of what we teach around race, culture, history, power, and oppression.
Yes.
I can't believe they got through, but they did. And so now they're the law of the land. And the standards need to determine the curriculum, needs to determine the teaching, needs to determine the testing. You know, the idea is that this is what we do. And so there is a great opportunity for us here to systematically not only highlight the extraordinary history of Black excellence and accomplishment, you know, back to ancient Egypt and long before, but to be doing that across all of the historically marginalized communities in a way that recognizes oppression. But the thing when you're teaching kids is you can't do that in a way that defeats hope. Because when I was teaching, the goal was confront the brutal facts with hope. Because you don't want to disempower a 10th grader from thinking that they can. So part of what you're describing is the key to that, the positive examples, the examples. Because that, we know when you want to help a kid avoid what's called stereotype threat, which happens in many areas. It can be a kid of color in a class where there's no other kids of color, a girl in a science class. There's a lot of stuff you can do to change this idea that I don't belong here, which then diminishes the student's ability to perform. The single most powerful is to give that student positive examples of people like them who have succeeded and supports among other kids like them. So we are at a really promising moment. There's a lot of work to do. We're going to do it here in Rochester. And it's very helpful to have the state standards saying not only we should do it, but we must do it.
Thank you for that. Some dirty looks from my wife, so I think we're going to have to probably get the questions, the answers down to a couple of minutes for the sake of time. Do we need to continue with the questions or what?
Yeah, we'll go ahead with the questions.
Okay.
Again, we'll have some time after if there is some homework. All right. So we haven't heard from any of our business owners yet. We know that this also affects the business community here in Rochester. We have a lot of business owners. So my question for you guys is, as a business owner of color, how would you describe the barriers you've experienced in obtaining your business, and what should be done to make it more fair? And that's for both of you.
I couldn't wait to get this mic out. Praise the Lord. You don't have no reverence sit down for a long time. I'm over here antsy, y'all. Let me just say this. Our community is angry. And our community is hurting. And the number one thing we deal with, and a lot of people really don't want to talk about it, is trauma. What we're dealing with is trauma, okay? And it's not just trauma that's rooted in history of systemic racism and the things that takes place in a city like this or any other city, but it's trauma that we have to deal with within our homes when our children and our families see something like this. But we must go from intolerance to edophilia, because if we don't start finding a way to move forward, then we will keep ourselves in the past. I'm hurt by what I saw. I feel like they put it there for me and Michelle. Our business is right there at this bridge. And all of a sudden that pops up. And it popped up last year, and it popped up 3 months ago when we weren't there. It popped up while we're there. So understand that trauma and how we have to process that. But even more important than that, I run 3 businesses. I run a cleaning company, and I run another cleaning company. And so that specializes in totally different things. And I've experienced racism, and I've experienced not getting contracts because of the color of my skin. And when me and my team go out to do walkthroughs, and I know they're not giving it to us because we're the lowest bid just to get the work. And so it happens in my business all the time, and it happens when I'm out trying to get work, that I'm not getting the work because of the color of my skin, and I recognize it, but I also understand that I must keep moving forward. I'm not downplaying what we're dealing with as a community. I'm not downplaying what we're dealing with as a nation. But what I am saying is that I want us, and I'm gonna say this to my brothers and sisters in Christ, y'all need to understand, we need to start loving and supporting and coming together and supporting our small businesses together, supporting each other, and not going against each other, talking about each other, hating on each other. Is so much of that aligned. How can we expect any other race to respect us if we don't respect ourselves? How can we get another race to understand our plight if we walk around and act like we don't even understand it ourselves? And I'm a child of God, and I absolutely love everybody, but we have to get to a point to where we start loving on one another. God said faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these 3 is love. When we get back to love, we can have a better community. Yes, I'm angry as hell. I'm angry, I'm mad, I'm upset, I'm frustrated, I'm discombobulated. But please understand, I serve a God that's bigger than those cups that was on that bridge. I serve a God that's bigger than what's going on, that's not right in this city, because I love Rochester. I love it, but I also know the God that I serve. And I know you disagree with that guy, but he said one thing that I do not disagree with. We got to start loving people past their imperfections. Because I don't know about any of y'all, but all of us got them, huh? There's always something that was brought up in us that make us look at other individuals differently. Every last one of us look at somebody differently, and it's not the right look. And if we're being honest with ourselves, we won't be able to move forward in our own lives and in our own community until we start addressing that. God bless y'all. Next.
Well, I'm definitely not a preacher. You asked a question about black business in this community. Well, I first came into the community as an engineer with IBM. So when I jumped into the restaurant world, it was new. I didn't know what I was doing, and I think I kind of ran right into a lot of roadblocks. In my particular business, being a restaurateur, all the numbers say you're not going to make it, right? So it's kind of hard when you go in and try to get a loan or get financing to see whether or not they're saying no because of the color of my skin or because of the numbers, right? But then it gets to some point where you're like, okay, hey, listen, I've made it a certain amount of time. My credit score is up here. My income is here. And you're telling me I still can't do it? Mm-hmm. So I run into that personally a lot. So it's a hurdle that you have to get over. Now, for me, I love everybody, but I do understand that people make mistakes, and I do understand people are imperfect. I believe that in accountability, and I believe in holding myself, as Sheriff Ferguson said first, accountable first. Okay, so I'm always looking in the mirror. I'm always starting to say, what is it that I'm doing? How is it that I'm acting that might have created or is creating a certain atmosphere? Okay, and I think if we start with that, then I think we become a better community. We become a better world. I struggle every day. Like I told you last week, we received a phone call with some discouraging words. It's not the first time we've had it. I've had people come in my business and they found out that it's owned by black people and they get up and walk out. So I have seen it. I appreciate the donation because I didn't refund it, you know. But, it still happens. And I guess I implore you guys to think about the elections as they're coming up, because I think there's something interesting. I don't know what it is, but I think when we had the last elections, we've had some interesting folks that came in and some interesting reactions. And I think as it's getting closer now, I think people are being empowered or polarized to say and do certain things. So I ask you guys to check yourself, check your thoughts. You know, we're all on this rock together, okay? And you know, we have our shortcomings, we have our conversations. You come to Jersey Joe's, we talk about religion, we talk about politics, we talk about cheesesteaks, we talk about whatever you want to talk about. And you know, my only thing is, when we talk, don't get upset. I can't get upset. I ask you not to get upset. When we walk away from each other, we should be thinking about something that person said. That's a meaningful conversation. And I think if we put that in our lives, we can kind of start getting over some of these shortcomings. Okay?
I know we're going to come to a question here, but I just want to jump in and say, I heard when Joe was talking, I heard you say, yes, I've had those problems too with getting loans with businesses. And it's concerning. I've been hearing that regularly. And I would love to have a conversation at some point beyond today about how we're going to address that as a community. Because there are, I don't know if they're inherent unfairnesses, if it's historical, if it's individuals, but something is happening that is causing people of color the inability to get loans, to get grants. I've heard the same thing from grants, and we need to address it. So I'm on board. I'm just putting myself out here. Call me, let's have a meeting, and let's work on this.
So thank you, Nando. Now, I definitely wanted to redirect, and we need to talk about more solutions. Where do we go next? How do we fix these issues? We can talk about some of the problems. We can be here all night talking about problems, but I love that you go into the solution, because that's ultimately where we want to end. So we got a few more comments, and we're going to respect everybody's time. So let's try to get it. Let's try to keep it moving.
All right, I am picking up what you're putting down. And so I'll be mindful. My name is Annie Mack, and I'm a longtime resident of Rochester. And first of all, I'm going to acknowledge what's in my body right now, because I think as Black people, I'm going to talk about Black folks because I'm Black. I'm going to be very specific. I don't want to use general terms. I don't want to go to any other isms. I don't want to center anything else other than Blackness right here, right now. As a Black woman, what I feel in my body right now, what it took for me to walk in the doors, I want to own that. Because in order for me to survive in this culture, in this climate, I have to put down, when I walk in a space, I have to put on a shield, a front. I have to take the things that make me human, right? I've had to caretake emotions, caretake everything beyond what I can even control, but yet I'm supposed to be responsible for that. So I'm going to be responsible being in my body and being present and acknowledging the generations of harm and hurt that takes place. Even when I go to the pit trip and I see a back the blue on a truck used to be a truck, and now it's become a symbol of so much more. So I'm going to acknowledge that and allow myself to truly feel and be human. I don't want to be in control. Because when I was in control, when I downplayed the rage that I had, when I had to assimilate in order to survive within this, I started to die. My hair started to fall out. You see, I started to lose focus about who I was and where I came from, because I needed to survive in this space, and I'm over that. So tonight, I'm going to honor that. My decolonization, my liberation. I'm past equality. I'm past equity. I'm looking for liberation at this point. And if you know your history, you understand that in the liberation, we can't be friends. We can't collaborate. I don't want you to be a part of my healing nor my liberation. You can't show up in that way. So when I hear words like collaboration and partnership, you're asking me to step back into a space that I've had to work really hard to come out of. And I have range about that. I don't want to hear that. What I do want to hear is accountability. And even beyond accountability, I want shit to be burned down. I'm over it. You hear what I'm saying? I don't want to be a partnership Listen, I'm gonna get real with y'all. Real. This incident, horrific, harmful, but if you know, you know. Right? We have been there, saw that. We know it's a symptom of the insidious and not so insidious, covert, overt shit that has been taking place. Right? It's been normalized. If you're not enraged, if you don't feel something, we need to examine that. You need to examine that. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. People, white supremacists, I'm gonna use specific language, are making their way to this space because we don't check and hold accountable to the extreme. They are making their way. When I drive as a musician, I see all kinds of stuff, not even 5 minutes outside. Stewartville, Orinoco, all those spaces. I see Trump, back the blue. And we know what that's code for. See, if you realize what you've been given, we've been given this really amazing superpower where we understand coded language, we understand spaces that are coded, we understand all that. And we may be polite to your face and make you feel like, well, we're hip, I'm hip. And I'm gonna speak on behalf of those who hold that superpower that we've been given for our survival. And so when I see that, not even 5 minutes, or like I said, at the Quick Trip, my question is, I'm from North Minneapolis, and I remember when the police came and waged war in our hood, in our neighborhood. And they took out Black youth, and there was no cell phones. It was the word of mouth of what happened, and we know that doesn't hold any type of water or anything like that. I witnessed the gangs that fought back against the cops because we were being picked off left and right, coming up into our houses, instilling fear, terrorizing us. The retaliation of that, I'm not only gonna come for you, but your family too. I lived through that. I lived through that. And for our survival, the gang stepped up. And I remember, it's funny because you're like, we can't arrest everybody, but I remember being on the block as a kid and they arrested 20 people all at once. They didn't even know who did what, but they had enough room and money and resources to arrest 30, 40, 50 people. Round them up. It was like a thing. It was an event to come into our neighborhood and round people up. They found you at your schools. They found you everywhere. Blows my mind. With all the technology that we have, we can't figure out who did what. So my question is, the special task force that they came into my neighborhood for the drugs, for the gangs, where is the special task force that is coming into the police department, the city government, the county, the educational system to come in and eradicate these people who have infiltrated to where they're teaching our kids. High school teachers, they have a reputation for being difficult, 20, 30 years, or you don't want that teacher, or no, they turn out to be a white supremacist, on purpose doing the diligent work of white supremacy. My question and solution is, and I don't want to be a collaboration, I want the community to have that task force where we get to be a part and say what our liberation, our healing, our intention looks like. You don't get to be a part of that at all. So tell me, when does that get established? When my tax money, because I see it and it goes. I want a special task force for white supremacy because the math ain't mathing. I need a place that is the majority of white folks. I was just reading, and I was going to Rochester those numbers, and I was going to come in here with some numbers, some data. I was going to break it down because we love numbers, right? The uptick of the intention of white supremacist infiltration. And if I say it correctly, that is every area of my life. When I go to the doctor, when I go to the store, my kids go to the school, when I have to, everywhere I turn, infiltrated. So when do we start to look at our community with so much scrutiny that we find them and we clean house just like they used to clean house 20 on the block where I'm from? That's what I have to say. So, I think we're gonna move ahead. Well, really, what do I want to say? But, we're gonna try to move this program along.
So before we move on, is there anyone that want to comment on Amy Mac's question? Thank you, Ms. Mack, because this conversation ain't always comfortable. The conversation ain't always comfortable, but every voice is important.
Now, we're just going to say that I understand where Andy is coming from. That's trauma. What you're hearing is trauma. When we go into the doctor's offices, that's how we're treated. When we go into the stores, that's how we're treated. And that's deep-rooted trauma. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, we still need to find a way how we're going to be able to move forward from that trauma. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you talking about the officers?
So there was a question about holding the accountability committee, a task force, a special task force for accountability to identify the racism in the systems and also in the community that attacks us from different directions and visible areas.
Yeah, I'm not sure I got a question there. I certainly understand your perspective. That, you know, her experience is way different than mine or most people in Rochester, and I get that. You know, how money gets spent in different places is in some way above my pay grade, but in reality, I do believe collaboration is a better way to go, but I understand why there's no trust that collaboration can work in parts of the community. So I think we have to own that.
That's right.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the next comment. We don't have a lot of time left, so we want to really just keep pushing through these comments, please.
Okay, I'm a little nervous, which is kind of shocking probably because usually I'm not. And if you know me, my name is Danielle Teal, and usually I'm the kumbaya person. But I see people like Moha, Twanda, Shade, Bee, Kanika, Dr. Barbara, and many, many powerful, strong, Black, BIPOC women. That as a white woman, I need to take a step back and tell you I'm listening. Not only am I listening, but I'm here to say, and I was gonna say with all due respect, but I think respect needs to be removed from this, to say that white people need to dismantle racism today. It was created by us, and it's up to us to help remove it. Thank you. Wally, I was so eager to put together an event and rally around, and you sent me a very thoughtful note to say, Danielle, we need to do this in partnership. And I want to be in partnership with you all today and figure out how we can touch the lives of our BIPOC community and also hold white people accountable for being part of racism. And I want to be a part of that solution and action that is brought up consistently here. And whatever I can do to help, I want you to know that I am there as an ally and a supporter, and I will not let my friends down.
This conversation is going to be very much comfortable. It's going to be uncomfortable. I speak quietly. That's just me. My godly name is King Apostle Knowledge, and I'm here for a reason.
because I have the evidence of racism that goes from the top of the government to the bottom of the government to the citizens that are here. Because I was here and I have 132 stitches in my face because the sheriff, the jailers, prosecutor, and the probation officer, they set me together to have me killed in the county jail. They falsely arrested me on a probation violation. They kept me in intake for 3 days. When they're legally, they were supposed to release me after 72 hours when my PO would not answer her phone at all while I was there. And instead of releasing me, the jailers came to my cell and said, no, you're not leaving. We're gonna take you to general population. Where they already knew the day before that an inmate that was there, that he had stolen a razor the day before. And for 6 months, they had been collecting letters directly from him to me, saying that he was going to kill me as soon as he saw me. And that's why the prosecutor was getting the letters from the jailer and the sheriff and the PO all worked together to falsely arrest me. And instead of releasing me after 3 days in intake, they sent me to general population. And within an hour, he snuck up behind me, tried to grab my head, pull it back to cut my throat. And I have 132 stitches in my face and I got 3 layers of stitches. They released me from the hospital immediately and tried to give me some, fix my face so that I couldn't see what they did to me. And I didn't know what they did to me until he was going to trial for the charge of the crime against me. And the prosecutor, I told him I will not testify against him. I want him free. He tried to kill me, and I want him free. And the prosecutor brought me in the room, and he gave me all of the evidence they had been collecting for 6 months. When he violated his OLP with the first letter that he wrote to his ex-wife that he threw down the stairs with the baby. But they didn't violate his probation because they wanted me dead. They knew he was a gang leader and that he thought he was, but he was just a crackhead that chased me because of who I am. And they allowed him to do that. They wanted him to do that because he started writing the letters directly to me. I'm going to kill you as soon as I see you. That's why they brought me to general population. That's why they falsely arrested me. Racism goes from the top to the bottom. And I'm suing, I filed a lawsuit against y'all on Monday in federal court. And I filed 9 counties in Minnesota for what they did to me. They've been trying to kill me for 30 years, frame me, do so many things to me. I know what racism is at. And I'm coming directly after it. And I pray that we can participate in this situation because the lawsuit y'all can file with it soon.
Okay, we'll take another comment from the community. Okay. Hello. Hello. My name is Dana, and I just want to first give a quick example of words. 2 years ago, I have a praying family, and my cousin was in college, and not in Minnesota, but it doesn't matter. And people were writing the words like we've seen on the bridge and saying different things, and it wasn't directed towards my cousin. It was just directed to the kids at this college. But my auntie, being a praying woman, emailed, text, all types of things and said, pray. And we prayed and we prayed, and we didn't know who was doing it. And the general idea was we can't prosecute without a direct threat to anybody, blah, 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 blah. And I'm gonna tell you, it just so happens that it was my cousin that was found 4 days later after my auntie asked us to start praying. That was tied up, beat up, dragged, and a whole bunch of other things, almost to unrecognition. And it started from words. It started from words. And I don't want us to be here in Rochester worried about words or people or anything. I'm a person that loves people. But I tell you, I work at a grocery store. And I watch everybody that comes in. I have an exit plan. I have a place to hide.
because I don't know who's gonna come up there shooting or acting crazy for whatever reason at any time. Rochester, I want to acknowledge George Thomas that was on the panel. George was a part of BET, Building Equality Together. It's the Diversity Council now, but George Thompson did something in this town. George Thompson and a whole set of people. He had a part that said racial reduction course. They taught the course to many of us, and we went into schools, the law enforcement, we went into different jobs. We did different things to help stop. This was when the Hmong's were first coming in. I've been here a long time, and I've seen a lot of things. But what I want to say is this. I want this not to be words. I've been to too many of these meetings where it's just words. I don't want just words. I don't necessarily want somebody prosecuted, but I want to stop. Stop having me live in fear. Stop having me have to look over my shoulder or worry about different things as housing or medical or whatever. Let me have the same opportunities that a lot of y'all in this room have. Let me have the same thing, and this is the last part. My husband always yelled at me because I just go do. I walk around, go lucky. And he always say, pay attention. And I'm paying attention, you know. And he says, no, pay attention to your surroundings, to even when you're just taking out the trash. And I'm thinking, you're just too paranoid. You're too paranoid, sweetie. We used to be able to keep our doors open and this, that, and other. Well, we can't no more. And as I've been here since '89. As I've been here, we're locking our doors. We're hearing about shootings. We're seeing bodies in the ditches. And this is causing me fear. I love Rochester, but I need for things to not continue to progress. So pay attention. I know it's the last thing. We used to have neighborhood, no, seriously, for everybody. We used to have neighborhood watches and all that kind of stuff, and you probably still do because you have a good neighborhood parties and stuff. But really and truly, you don't have to be a part of an organization. It used to be that when I grew up, we knew our neighbors. I've been in the same place for 3 years, and I don't know, the community police itself. I've been in the same place for 3 years, and I don't even know my neighbor's name. All I know is, hey, neighbor, because that's the type of person I am. And then, yes, they respond and stuff. Pay attention, get to know your neighbors, get to know the things that's going on in your community, because we can do something.
Hello, my name is Kiara. I used to work at Century High School last year. I have experienced a lot of racism inside Century High School from staff and students alike. There were situations that I addressed last year and it was swept under the rug. There was an incident where a student was in class. I'm pretty sure a lot of you know the story. I'm sorry I haven't got it. There was a kid who passed away from going to knock at the wrong door and got shot. I think we all know that story. They were talking about it in class, and I guess the teacher thought it was okay to start cracking jokes to them and the students. We had a student walk out of class crying, and she came to find me. Nothing was done. I spoke with Nate, I believe was the principal's name. Yeah, he was the principal last year, so he did nothing about it. I made a report, so if you go look up, there's a report on it. They told me I can't do anything as ESP security. I was not allowed to do anything. I'm not allowed to say anything. I can't tell anyone outside of the school what goes on in the school, even if it's something like that that makes me uncomfortable, because now I have to watch my back while I'm at work. There has been people who have made threats to others, to students that are staff. That is also written into stuff that I wasn't here for that, but it was confirmed by a lot of staff members that it did happen. He still currently works here. I was supposedly cut because of budgets, but I know it was because I was reporting all the racism that was going on. And I actually met someone else who just said the same thing, was cut from Century before I got here for the same thing. Basically, anytime you speak up, we get cut, and now there's an excuse, oh, there are budget cuts, so you can't be here. But then you keep the person that's been walking around the school calling students monkeys to their face. And then the person got suspended, which is the staffing report 1 week, and he came back. And he continued to harass me. Once I found this out, I looked at him completely different, didn't want to talk to him. So I dealt with that. There were situations where students would get into it with each other and the principal would push it under the rug. It's not a big deal. Or the time that the assistant principal got in my face and pointed and talked to me like I was a student in front of students for telling the student she has to go to class and she didn't like how I delivered the message. There was a lot going on last year. I'm actually happy that you guys cut me because I was not comfortable. I didn't really desire to come to work because of everyone else. I desired to come because of the African American students, anyone of color who did not have someone who looked like them to work here. I still see those same students out in public, and they always ask me when am I coming back to work. They always ask me when I will come back because they're not comfortable here and go through so much. So seeing that sign up there is not a shock for me. It was just, this is my moment to come and speak for those kids. My question is, if there was a suicide on the bridge and now there's been stuff put on the bridge, why are there still cameras? Are you guys gonna put cameras on the bridge now?
Yeah, so we'll give that question to somebody on the panel want to take that question, and then we're gonna go and get the last 3 comments.
I think that's a great question. And so hopefully the mayor or city and county officials should be able to answer that, because we don't want any more of this. We don't want a situation where next year this happens and there is no camera. So how do you learn? What are the lessons learned from this? So I think that's a great thing. I appreciate what the sister said. I will just sort of share this. If you look at everybody around here, some of the voices that are missing are the students, right? And that is something that we need to make sure is happening. So next week, we're having a town hall focused on student voices. But she just gave a glimpse of what students across Rochester Public Schools, are experiencing. And it's more a symptom of what's happening nationally as well, so.
Hello, everybody. Hope I'm loud enough. I too have anxiety, and I was not cut from Century High School. I actually was forced to resign from Rochester Public Schools. I too, as an employee of Rochester Public Schools, witnessed as an equity specialist every single day on the job, discrimination towards African American students. And every time I reported it, I received some form of being reprimanded. This caused a lot of severe anxiety for me. I also serve as a community leader. I run the Journey program. I founded this organization to help underserved youth and people who don't have a voice. So social justice and advocacy is the core root of the work that we do. One thing I can say is that a lot of you faces up here today have at one point of time supported the work that we've done. And most recently, we've held a lot of town halls concerning this particular situation. I felt like I've had to leave this town that I've served for 12 years from being stalked. I've had everything from social services called and reported on my children, my job threatened, my housing, my mail stopped. The discrimination goes far, but it's not about my personal situation because I got me, right? I'm being dealt with, right? I got me. But I'm here. I'm not going nowhere. I'm still serving the Rochester community. Our grants were denied, continue to be denied. I'm still a Black-owned business, right? And Black-owned businesses continue to struggle. We talked about that, but we're at a point now where we're done talking. I want to say to Mr. Pakel, you're doing a wonderful job. There needs to be more work done. To the police, you're doing a wonderful job. You guys acknowledge systemic racism and you recognize that there needs to be more work that needs to be done. Mayor Norton, you show up, you understand that there's more work that needs to be done. Thank you, Wale, for putting this together, as well as Barbershop Talk. But I want you guys to understand who I am in my history. I come from the basements of the south side of Chicago of Operation Push Coalition with Reverend Jesse Jackson. And in that basement, along with our ancestors in history, there was never once a time where they asked permission to do anything. What did they do? They collaborated and they did it on their own, and that's exactly what we intend to do. So if anybody in this room right now wants to connect with the Journey program and any other Black, B-L-A-C-K, and let me reiterate that, this doesn't mean if you're not Black, you can come in solidarity and help us. And that means forming a 501c3 to create that task force that Andy Mack stood up here and talked about, because they all have jobs. They all have their own policies. They have their own guidelines. The same way that Officer Stilwell stood up and said that, imagine that he didn't have his uniform on. A lot of them, believe it or not, that's how they have to do their jobs. They can be in collaboration and have the same understanding as us, but they have to abide by policy as well. So we don't have to abide by their policy. We get to make our own rules. And that's what we intend to do. And that's what's going to happen around here, because data, a paper trail. Because if every single person that's Black within this community had one central location to report everything that was going on, this place would be shut down from the top of the So from this day forward, the mission of the Journey program is to organize as many people as possible to create this foundation where we can start supporting people who are being affected by systemic racism in Rochester. Look us up, connect, collaborate with us. We come in peace. All we want to do is be treated like human beings. Those words, it hurt me down to my core. We all have trauma. And to see that word, for those who don't know, nigga and nigger is two different things. If I turn around and say that good is my nigga, that's my brother. That's what I mean. So for everybody who's saying, oh, they say nigga, no, we say nigga with an A, and ER is ER, that's the bad part. So educate yourself, you know. But get with us and thank you, everybody.
More comment.
So, I just have, it's actually, as I was standing here, I was forming in my mind what my white privilege offers me, but I'm a member of the mental health professional community here in Rochester, and I support the advancement of mental health services for people of color, for Black people in Rochester. It's vital. So two parts. One, how do we break the barrier of the stigmatism of the Black community in mental health? I think it's there, and I think I would be naive not to look around my colleagues and notice that there's not one person on my staff as a mental health therapist that looks like a Black person. We are white men and women trying to do our best, right? But I know I can't fulfill that role for everybody. So I just want you to know I acknowledge that. But what is Rochester doing specifically? So this is for Mayor Norton, the police department. What are we doing to bring vital mental health services to the underserved population? And what are we doing to get mental health therapists that look like the people of these underserved populations? What are we doing?
Well, I'm afraid to even pick up the microphone because I know you're not gonna like the answer, which is the city doesn't do that type of work. It typically falls under the county who provides social services. And we do have some county commissioners here who might be willing to answer that. They're not prepared today to do that, but the sheriff is willing to talk about this. So I'll pass it off to the sheriff.
Thank you. Yes, we have commissioners here, but I know they're looking at me. We've had, and it's not something the county or the city can do, first off, to hire or create those businesses, first of all, as far as private businesses, I don't know where she went, but for mental health services, there's no question there's a lack of it in our community. There's no question in lack of it across the country. That is a struggle. We deal with it every day. When Jeff and I started a long time ago, we maybe handled a mental health call once a week, once a month, maybe not even once a year sometimes. Now it's every day. So the mental health across the board, not just any one particular community, is off the charts from what I remember starting out as a young deputy, for sure. On that end, the county did take some steps. As far as I'm aware, our detention center was the first detention center to put a mental health caseworker and social worker inside the facility to help with the folks that were there and doing that. And that goes way back, that was 25 years ago-ish, somewhere in there. Don't write that down because I'm not exactly sure. I just know it happened. I wasn't working in that area. I had other focus. Anyway, out of that, prior to some of the more current conversation about mental health and embedding social workers and mental health case workers with law enforcement, we started that. Again, it wasn't before all the screaming and hollering started happening about we needed to do this. We already were. We took one of our caseworkers from inside the facility and brought her outside. She rode along, started seeing it, and we were going, holy cow, this has got to grow. And we went right back to the county, our board, and to the mental health folks, our human services people, and said, this has got to grow. And they made it happen. We have 4 people. I keep telling them we need to double that. Commissioner, we need to double it. We need it 24/7. It's not 24/7, but those 4 folks have been tremendous in the work they do with our officers, our deputies, and dealing with mental health issues on the road and on the street. And just recently, with the opioid money on the other side of this thing, because to me, mental health and drug addiction they're sisters, they're brothers, they're so intertwined, it's scary. And we see it in our facility all the time. With that, the county, with the opioid money, the big settlement that went nationally here recently, the county is now has 4 social workers and support therapists and folks that are working on that. So we do have 8 people. We're doing things. We need to continue growing. It's not easy. The county board and our department heads they struggle all the time with how do we solve all of these and help support all these problems. Housing is another issue, Mayor, and we talk about that all the time. I know, but I listen to you guys talk about it all the time. We're doing things. We're going to continue. I know they'll continue working on those things. But again, it's mental health there's no question. It's a big challenge. And I got to stand up here and say we don't have the answer for every single thing. We just got to keep working at it and try the best we can. That's all I can give you right now. I don't know that we have a immediate, this is what we can do. We're going to keep working on it. And we need to hear from you. The board needs to hear from you. Everybody else. Thank you.
Thanks, Sheriff. One more comment.
One more comment, then. Close the sign up.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Roberto Fiddle. President of the Academy for Public Service, and I'm also a teacher here at Century High School. My first year at Century High School. And hearing from the students, I can tell you that they're disturbed and shaken by what happened. As you can hear, I'm from the South. Here's my accent. But I've been involved with Rochester. I've been knowing it and been involved with Rochester for 2/3 of my life. 1997, first year I heard about Rochester came up. Sounds like a long time ago before pre-history. But I want to address this in 3 points. One, what does this mean? How do we get here? And then what do we do next? One, when I saw that sign up there, what's unique about the South, and I mentioned this to Mayor Norton when I met her first when she was representative. Yeah, you do see it a lot in the South. It's thicker in the South, but at least in the South, you can tell it to your face. I know the monster I'm dealing with. And to echo what one of the gentlemen said about Martin Luther King, he found that dealing in the North is more dangerous than dealing in the South. Because at least in the South, you know the monster. In the North, the monster can be patting you on the back and having a knife at your throat, ready to smash. That, when I saw that sign, what was different is that it was not targeted as an individual. Police officers, you're never going to find an individual victim. That wasn't the intended point. Because if that was the point, you see that on somebody's house. Yeah. What this says is more dangerous. This is a calling card. This person felt safe enough to put this out there to say, people, I'm here, come find me, let's work together. Yeah. Now, how do we get here? Just like with the country, Rochester has the same problem. Now, being from the South, the Civil War means different to me than it does up here. I'm always remembering this thought that I've heard from one of the speakers in the Ken Burns Civil War, that if you believe that the Civil War is just about battles to be fought, won, and lost, then the Civil War ended in 1865. But if you believe that the Civil War was more than that, was more about bringing the people together, then the Civil War is still continuing on and it can still be lost. Now here's how this is being fought now. We're taking away and trying to whitewash, or at least take out the sting of what American history was. And this comes back to Rochester too. I'm still surprised that I find people that are from Rochester that did not know that the Klan was well empowered in Rochester in the time period that was not that long ago. We've had lynchings in Rochester that is not that long ago. You have people here, the earlier black people here might have family members that still remember that lynching. So if you don't talk about this history, I know as painful as it is, the thing is, for black folks, we've heard it a long time, we've seen it a long time, we've gotten numb to the pain. We've seen it for a long time. But the thing is, everybody needs to know this history or else you're going to repeat it. Now, how do we move on from here? Like I said, we got to talk about this history. But what I keep hearing is the easy thing to do. And it cheapens the ability and the experience, both the ability to move forward and the experience. One, if you just put it on the police. It's the police's problem. I'm done. That's not good enough. If you are serious about preventing stuff like this from happening again, this takes a whole community effort. But for that person to feel comfortable enough to put that out there, he had to feel like the community really was going to not really care, or at least at best, or at least at worst, maybe give them a little fine, whatever. But that's the homework as a teacher. I'm gonna give you homework. Learn the history of Rochester, learn the racial history of Rochester to A, to not repeat it, but B, what can we do to move forward? But then the other thing is, figure out ways to come back together as a community and keep this conversation going, because this should not be the one and only meeting. We need to have several meetings to keep this going.
this is the final one for real, y'all.
I didn't say that. I think it's too much.
I'd like to thank everyone for this opportunity for conversation and community. I just want to focus on what's next. I implore those who are present and those who are not to keep this conversation going. I need this energy at county board and commissioner meetings. I need this energy at city council and school board meetings. We need this energy for the drugs that have decimated our communities. I want everyone to vote for those who align with your beliefs. If you can't find those individuals, run for office. I see plenty of capable individuals. Keep showing up and keep voicing and using your voice.
Yeah.
But I actually wasn't going to talk today, but it just struck me to say something. Because some of my strengths include strategic, learner, and some other stuff too. To close out today, because a lot of people actually came here looking for solutions. Not another meeting, not another discussion. So I would like to leave with the final question for each of you and those that are in the audience as well that are from respective organizations to turn to your neighbor, share one thing that you will take accountability for in your organization, so that when we have similar issues like this, we can look to you, directly to you, with that concern and that challenge. So it's accountability. So what can you share, just one thing, that you'll take back to your organization, so that when we have issues like this, we can come to you with it.
Well, thank y'all for coming. I'm going to hand that over to the experts over there, Stephanie and our moderators. Again, thank y'all for coming out.
Yes, praise God. So we're gonna go ahead and start to close things up. But Tawana, maybe she didn't believe that I was gonna really do this. You know, she said to get in here. But I had already wrote that down on my list of the closing. I had that on my list, ma'am. Thank you. I was prepared. They made me think I was gonna freestyle. I was just gonna freestyle. But I did put one little thing I wrote down. So what I would like, but in the interest of time, but I personally, or someone from our team, will be sending you an email, and we want it in writing. We want to see what that action is that you are going to implement that we can hold you to, because otherwise this is just another meaningless conversation. And there should be at least one thing that each person on this panel can commit to doing to bettering our community. Otherwise, so that's just praise the Lord. Okay, so I just want to say, and I hope I know, but we need to have some accountability out here, y'all, and we need to be able to hold our leadership accountable for those things. So we didn't choose randomly our panels. We wanted to make sure that we were speaking to people that can help us get things done. Because let me tell y'all something, an ally, you ain't got the call. You know, everybody got that girlfriend, that person in the corner, don't matter. I call you down my house in house shoes, okay? This is the kind of allyship we need. We don't need spectators. So if you're not here to come with us when we're calling and telling you that the Black community, and I heard what everybody had to say, but either you with us or you're against us. There is no excuse. So if you don't have something that you can contribute, then you're on the other side. And when my used to tell me that there ain't no fence, baby, the devil made the fence, but y'all can take that how you want to. It's either yes or no. And also know that by not making a decision, you have made a decision. So if it isn't a yes, y'all, it's a no. But I just want to close with this, and they gave me a mic. I'm sorry.
Stephanie, before you close.
Oh, I'm sorry, please.
But Stephanie, before we close, I think it's important before we leave here. So this Saturday, you know, our plan as a community should be, and we have a community rally to go to the bridge where that message of hate was displayed, to turn it into a message of love. So we encourage you to show up at 11 a.m. On Saturday for a community rally and join us from the NAACP, join us from the Black community. Let's change that message of hate into a message of love. And then you come next week, and then let's listen to the voices of our students who are traumatized, and let's come up with solutions.
You have a date for that?
That is Monday. So Monday, we're thinking is gonna be at Willow Creek, 5 to 7 p.m. Go to our website from the NAACP, but that's the plan it's gonna be on Monday. Willow Creek is gonna be centering on the voices of students. It's really important that it's not just the adults, but the kids are heard, and they are our leaders. And so they need to be a part of that solution as well.
All right, so we done for real. But I just want to leave everybody with just a few points real quick. Get involved. There are teams out here. I think Nashana mentioned her team of Journey. We have the CERT team. These are all grassroots, volunteer. Everybody got something to say in my ear. I'm pretty good putting my words together. But we do. But just as we showed up tonight, we need to show up to events. We need to be, everybody getting the same Facebook invitations as we all getting, but actually show up, actually come out in numbers. This is how we support one another. So we want to make sure we're doing that, but give yourself some self-examination and determine where you are in this fight. Are you really an ally? Are you a spectator? Are you really with this fight? Do you want to be a part of it? And what side are you going to be on?